Okay. So welcome everyone to the judge panel for Empower Hacks. We're so excited. Honestly, for me, this is the most exciting part about this hackathon. Just the connections that I've formed, and the connections that you guys will be forming in this panel is going to be amazing. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend if you see any of your teammates that aren't on this call right now, please invite them because it's gonna be a pretty interesting call, and you guys are gonna get answers to many questions. And just as a kind of a precursor, if you guys have any questions, please go on the Chat with Judges channel that's right above this one. And whatever question you have, I will be sure to ask the question and get it answered by these judges and panelists. So, yeah, so excited. So, I guess to anyone who wasn't there during the opening ceremony and kind of needed a refresh on who's who, I guess if we can all kind of introduce ourselves and maybe say what our roles are, like what we do. Yeah, anyone's free to start.
Yeah, sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Shagun. I'm currently a student at the University of Illinois, majoring in computer science and minoring in informatics and hopefully business. Currently, I'm a software engineering intern at William Blair, which is a bank in Chicago. And yeah, I'm super excited to meet all of you. I'm interested in like everything with like cybersecurity, fintech, and a little bit of AI. So, if you have any questions about that, I'd love to answer them.
Yeah. Maybe Vidya, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Hi everyone, my name is Vidya. I'm also a student at the University of Illinois studying computer science, also minoring in business. And yeah, this summer I'm working as a software engineering intern at Honeywell. A lot of my side passions also include like AI. I actually work at a nonprofit called Uncode Justice. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but I am pretty interested in the whole like social element of AI and like how it can be more human centered and ethical. So if you have any questions about that as well, let me know.
Yeah, that's great. Aditi, you can introduce yourself as well. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm Aditi Godbole. I'm a senior data scientist at SAP right now. And for the past decade, I've been working in data science. My focus has been in natural language processing, ML. So, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and see what everyone has got.
Yes, definitely. If we can have Monica, if you'd like to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Sure, yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Manika Kapoor. I am a senior software engineer at NVIDIA, and I work in the field of autonomous driving, so working on building the self-driving car software for NVIDIA.
That's so cool. Akila, you could just introduce yourself if you'd like.
Hi everyone, I'm Akila. I'm currently a rising senior studying computer science and fintech at the University of Georgia, and I'm also a software engineering intern at Morgan Stanley this summer.
That's wonderful. Okay, our last panelist for today is going to be Sanjana. If you can introduce yourself a little bit, that would be great. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hey everyone, I'm Sanjana. I am currently a senior software engineer at NVIDIA. Prior to this, I did my master's from Carnegie Mellon. I specialize in high level systems software and machine learning. Excited to be here and hopefully guide some people or like help around or just have a nice conversation with you folks.
Yeah, amazing. So, I just wanted to start this off by thanking all of you panelists for being with us today. I honestly feel like it's an accomplishment in itself just being in a call with you guys. You guys have accomplished so much, and it's really nice to, chat with you guys and ask you a couple questions. Um, so, I guess we can start by asking kind of a question with a technology aspect to know you guys better. So, what has motivated you to choose a career in technology, and how has your journey evolved throughout the years?
I can start. So for me, honestly, the reason how like why I thought about technology was because I did not like biology. So in my middle school and high school years, I was like, I don't really like biology. And then I had an opportunity to to take on subjects in computer programming at high school level. And that's how I got into this field. And that's what just it clicked. And since then, I've been here. And throughout the years, there have been these kind of forks in the road where you have a choice to study certain subject. You have like you get to choose between few subjects, and that's where you just choose certain thing, and that kind of sparks more interest. So that's how I've been going through my career, and that's how I've landed in data science and been here for so long now.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Honestly, like, choosing computer science because you don't like biology, that's so relatable because I don't like medicine, so I kind of did computer science myself. But yeah, does anyone else have any like interesting stories about how they got into tech as well?
I can share my
Yeah,
story, and ironically, it's completely opposite of what Aditi said. I was like super interested in biology when I was in 12th grade, and I was going to write my medical exams. But then I someday it just hit me that if I do take up this path, then I'm going to be doing like 10 years of this. And I didn't know if I was really, meant for that. And so I just chose the other option I had, which was engineering for me. And then while I was doing it, I did ECE in undergrad, and I honestly hated it. But then there was one particular subject, it was called pattern recognition, which was kind of like an introduction to machine learning. And that's where really started developing my interest in ML and AI and all of that, which is why I'm like, okay, I wasted my undergrad doing like kind of figuring out what I want, so might as well do my master's in what I actually like, which is what I went ahead and did. So that's might be a weird part to get into technology, but it works out for me. So
No,
I'm
that's
okay.
so interesting. And you're also a Carnegie Mellon alum, so that's really impressive as well. So kudos to you on that. And that was like a really interesting introduction. Complete opposite, as you said. Does anyone else have interesting ways they got into tech?
yeah. So for me, it was similar to Sanjana. So for me, it was like I loved bio, but then uh, I think in 10th grade or 11th, I was like, okay, I can't do this. I can't do bio and math both because I loved math as well. But I can't do both, so I'll just choose math. And but the other thing also was that I didn't want to do coding. So for me, because I had seen my elder brother do coding at that time, and he was like, you know, the errors came and he was just trying to fix those errors, and I'm like, okay, what is this happening? So I'm like, I will not take, computers as well. I went for economics, and I was really interested in getting into economics, but then at that point it was like, even with the parents pressure, it was like, no, 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 go and do engineering. So I went and did my electronics engineering. Even then, coding was something that I was like, okay, computers I don't want to do because I don't want to code. But then when I came to, but ultimately when I got into the industry, and I realized that I'm not, doing what I really want to do. And then when I came to the US, I was like, what can be a good intersection of mathematics that I love, and then not too much of, going for the front end, back end part of the coding. So I was like, okay, data science and machine learning, like it comes somewhere in the middle. So that's how I got into. So I did my master's here, and my focus was machine learning and data science and deep learning. So that's how I got into the industry. Like I was trying not to do coding at all, but then now my life is coding every time. Yeah, it's a good mix though. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, coding is always gonna be there, like no matter how much you hate it. So, Vidya, I think you were trying to explain you got into tech. It would be nice to hear that from you.
Sure. For me, it was a little different actually. I I was pretty unsure about what I wanted to do. And like growing up, I would watch all these TV shows like Grey's Anatomy, Suits, and every time I'd watch a new TV show, I'd be like, oh, maybe I want to go into healthcare or maybe I want to be a lawyer. So I was pretty wishy-washy. And in high school, I took a computer science class, and that's sort of when I like joined this like whole space of tech. It also helped that my parents are also in tech, and so I found that technology is used in pretty much every single field. So coming into like college, I felt like computer science was my like baseline for anything that I wanted to do. If I wanted to be involved in like tech policy or like tech law or like tech healthcare, like there's always like a way to incorporate computer science into any field. So um, I really found that that was my way to kind of have like a baseline understanding of tech, and then I can figure out like what my passion is from there. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you're kind of able to mix like coding and the suits in a way with policy. Okay, but that's also so relatable because I wanted to be a doctor after watching Grey's Anatomy. Obviously, that didn't work out. So, Akila, Shogun, I would like to share your journey as well. That would be great.
Me, I would say like both my parents were in tech, but just seeing them like code a lot and just like run and like sit there for hours and not be able to like solve like like go through like a single like problem, that kind of like made me think like coding's a little bit boring. So going to high school, I was kind of set onto like the business side. So I joined a bunch of like business clubs, and also like our school was like an engineering high school, so we had to take electrical or mechanical engineering. So my first semester, I had to take electrical engineering, and I realized that I did not like the hardware side of things at all. So going back to like the business side, like I kind of stuck with that until I found out that like a lot of the project I had to do involved technology and like learning about all these like technology spaces. So that's when I realized like coding was like you kind of had to learn it in order to be advanced in those tech spaces. So I'm still like now into college, I was able to actually combine coding with like a lot of different applications. So I got into like the security side of things, and you realize that like although you're not actively coding all the time, you're still incorporating all these like different new spaces in technology. And even in my internship right now, like I get to see like you can use it and apply it to be able to solve like a lot of like big data problems, and I think I like that space a lot more, so it's fun.
That's really cool. No, I feel like one thing that I've noticed in common is everyone doesn't want to go into tech, but like tech is really inevitable, and it's like, and the thing about tech is like you could combine it with literally everything, and it'll still work out. So, that's really what we want to do in empowering AI. Like you could do whatever you want, but you have to code alongside. So, Sheila, I think if you could share your story a bit, and then we can move on to the next question.
Sure. So hopefully my audio are okay. But I think I have a more story to pretty much here. In high school, I just did not want to go into computer science at all. After seeing just code, I think I was pretty intimidated by it. So I didn't want to go into that field initially. So I dabbled around. Initially, I really become a cardiologist. But then I think I took a couple classes or I did some extracurriculars and found very quickly that wasn't something that I do. Then I later added that, okay, business or that management might be something for me. And it's something that still does me, but I did want to specialize in something specific. So again, I came back to computer science when I took AP Comp Sci Principles in my year of high school. And I actually kind of liked, I really like worked on, and I guess I had a really good teacher who taught it, and that is very interesting and thought-provoking. So I was able to create some cool little projects from it, or at least at the time I thought it was really cool and something that I knew I could probably get into later on, because the thing with comp is it involves a lot of creativity, but also a good knowledge of just how computers work, and I think I had a combination of both. So I was like, okay, let's give comp sci a shot. So I applied to most colleges with the intention of majoring in comp sci, and yeah, 3.5 years into it, I have no regrets. I ended up really enjoying it um, throughout college, even though there were times during college where I was like, oh, I wish I could change my major. That's usually the night a project is due or I'm studying for an exam, but that's a different story. But yeah, I really enjoyed my career choice of career up until now. So no regrets, thankfully. And even though I did start off with a lot of hesitation wondering if comp sci would be the ideal path for me or if I should choose something else. I think everything worked out in the end. Yeah.
Yeah, similar story as everyone like kind of did not like computer science. I think we got a question in the chat from Ikra Khan, and she wants to ask what aspects of AI are you guys all involved in? So for example, AI in medicine, AI study tools, etc. Anyone's free to answer.
Yeah. So it's been, I think I've been working in this area in the area of machine learning, deep learning for around 6 years now. So my initial one was in natural language processing. At that point, I was in IBM, so I have some experience with that. So in IBM, it was mostly enterprise data. So using natural language processing, what all you can extract from the enterprise data. And now in NVIDIA, it's like I'm involved with the, training of models for cars to identify traffic signs, traffic light, and then also the integration of it and basically combining all of it to make some features work. So in this pipeline, what I realized was that just training, because training different kind of models, they are like very fancy in the sense that it seems that that is the most important part. But when you come to the entire pipeline of it, it seems that training model is a very small part of it. But then making all those outputs work and satisfy a feature is another level of is a different story. So for me, I have been involved with the training of models as well as the using the outputs to make some features work. And I would say that it's been 3 years, 3.5 years since I've been working in this area. Somehow I like working with the feature approach more. So because it gives you like so like in autonomous driving we have a lot of things, like we have perception where you see stuff, and then there is another module that will act upon that stuff. So it's like uh, when you are working with features, you get to see the entire picture of the entire system, like how things are working. So that's the one aspect that I like about it. um, yeah, for sure, like when we come to such systems, uh, while training models, a lot of focus is on Python. So you use Python, PyTorch. But when it comes to integration with systems, optimizing models, it comes down to the basic language of C, C++. Another one, I never thought I'd be working in C, C++. I was so comfortable with Python. Somebody who never wanted to do coding, getting to Python, and now it's C, C++. But yeah, it's how it works. Like making anything work on the system at that level, you have to have uh, comfort with the level languages, so which is C, C++. So I think yeah. So that's it's cool. Like that part of technology is like worth it in the sense that you see when you see stuff working, and you see in my case, like you see the car moving on its own. It's different. Like we know, like now you understand like how why it is doing what it is doing. So that's really really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Like, the field of AI and autonomous driving is it's kind of something that you don't think about because
Yeah.
so like there's lots of people that have Teslas and like different cars. Like my dad has a Tesla,
Mm,
and then like a few times we've done kind of like the auto drive thing, and so now
mm,
hearing that like oh you have to like code in Python and C sharp like and that's how it works.
mm.
That's really interesting because like the same Python that I use to code is being used to like run this whole car. It's pretty interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that intersection's
And
amazing.
it's like now like when you see that stuff working, like we have a Tesla, and when I see like okay, self-driving car software working, my thought is so my focus is only on okay, it did this because of this, it did this because of this. It's very hard. Like I never used to notice these traffic signs on the road, these markings on the road, and I'm like now whenever I'm driving, I'm just looking at those. It's just yeah, it's
Yeah.
just
That's kind of like the side effect of coding. Like once you start coding, you start seeing everything in like if else statements. So that's like, I don't know, that's what always happens to me. But
Oh, sure.
yeah. Okay. Do you guys work in any like unique AI fields?
Yeah, for sure. Um, Basically, when I like learned about AI, like I'm still in school, and so I'm still like learning about how all these technologies work. And so, one of the biggest things for me was like, are we being ethical and are we being human centered? And so, one of the like biggest frameworks that I've like researched is facial recognition technology. And a lot of times in our like criminal justice system, we often like find a lot of biases and like large big tech companies end up like Amazon, for example, you know, they create all these technologies, but are there frameworks in place to make sure that they are actually auditing technology and, you know, is it being equitable, right? And so the work that I do specifically was like I've for the past many years I've been doing like educational workshops. So I go around the country talking to high school students, colleges, and like um, tech companies talking about what they can do to be more ethical. A lot of times, like even with like ChatGPT, when OpenAI released, you know, ChatGPT, we don't really know like were they really being ethical? I know they started, you know, OpenAI and ChatGPT with the intentions of like, you know, trying to make things equitable, but we know like, you know, like different kinds of things happen, and eventually like that whole like ethical aspect sort of got lost in everything that they're doing. And um, so my whole thing with policy is like, what can we do as, and this is a lot very U.S. centric for sure, but what can the government do in sort of regulating this technology? So a lot of like the pushes that we push for are like creating like a central body to sort of oversee any kind of technology, kind of like we have like an FDA style commission where really like talking to policymakers about what they can do in terms of regulating this technology. A lot of times that's actually pretty difficult because they have no idea, like are they don't know how tech works. And so a lot of the education side comes in like briefing them, explaining, you know, to White House policymakers like, okay, this is what it is, this is how, you know, biometric data is collected, this is how, you know, training data sets are made, making sure that's equitable for all races, all minority groups, right? And making sure that that's in place when they're using these kinds of technologies, because it's not just like it's easy to like make it, but then to actually be like cognizant, like if you're working at like Meta, are you really thinking about how your like social media algorithm is maybe profiling people, or how it's, you know, the algorithm like actually shapes our minds, like all of our like siblings are growing up with these technologies, we grew up with this technology, are we like actually being mindful of how these, you know, algorithms are shaping us, right? And so I think a lot of that goes into like, yes, it's the tech company's responsibility, but also like on the policy side, what can they do to regulate that? So that's like a huge passion of mine. um, and so I just try to do a lot of work with that. And so, oh, sorry, I'm yapping a lot, but
No.
my most recent is around deepfakes. And one of my biggest things with that is recently there's been a lot of cases of like deepfake pornography, and so a lot of underage girls are being targeted um, by this. And so we're trying to do a lot of like efforts when it comes to deepfake detection platforms, and then from the policy stance is also like making sure you either like watermark deepfakes or have some sort of way to make sure that deepfakes are not being used in this kind of way. Like it's a very cool technology, but if it's being used in these kinds of ways, obviously like there's a problem here and nothing being done. So I think as a CS major in me, like I'm trying to like see if there's a technical way that we can work through this, but obviously there's also like the technology's already out there, so how can we prevent this from happening and help the victims out there? So.
Yeah. I have two things. So, honestly, this is like such important work you're doing as someone fighting AI bias and kind of just its ethicality. So, first of all, like I know a little bit about like data set diversification, and know how it could be kind of against minorities in many times and kind of fall to stereotypes, and that's a huge part of kind of the usage of AI. So actually, empowering AI is mainly about AI ethics and teaching women how to like kind of combat AI bias and, as you said, such issues. Second, like I would just wanted to say that what you said is so true about like how our algorithms are literally shaping us. This is kind of like an example, but like my brother, he uses YouTube a lot, and then so now he's just the algorithms like really gave him an interest in like geopolitics, so now so it could be a good thing, but then it's also shaping like his views on like politics and stuff like that, and that's really a double-edged sword. We have another question in our chat as well. So someone says that it seems that AI is very math heavy. Do you have any suggestions to understand or explore AI as I am building my math background and understand the algorithms? Beyond classwork, is there any preparation those interested in AI should do? I think this could be helpful if some of the senior professionals could answer these questions. Yeah.
To take that one, so I think that it's really important to understand the underlying math in like ML and AI, because if not, what you're doing is just calling a bunch of APIs and then you're getting some output and then you don't know what actually is going on in the backend, right? So my suggestion would be, as and when you learn a specific concept in math, like try to go implement it yourself. Like try to maybe plug in an algorithm and kind of look at the results and see what's going on and why you're getting it. Tweak some parameters and see what changes and how it affects things. So maybe just experimenting and tweaking things around, you're getting like more experience, understanding what exactly is affecting what, like what features are affected, or like um, what features are picked up because of the inputs you're giving and things like that. So I think a whole lot of experimenting would be the way to go. I wouldn't say like if you're gonna look at multiple sources like YouTube videos or like courses, it's still gonna teach you the same basic concepts, but I think like going and experimenting yourself would be helpful.
Just to add on to it, like maybe when it comes to ML and AI, I feel that a very good basic, a very good foundation of linear algebra, probability, and statistics. They are the like when you are in school, uh, they are like now. When I started working on it, it was like really foundational knowledge of linear algebra. If you know that, all the math makes sense. So, and I know like linear algebra, maybe it starts in what, sixth, seventh grade. So it's that mathematics which is making sense when, at this level. So it's linear algebra, statistics, probability. Um, yeah, I feel those three things from school that you can carry with you. And then rest will be like, okay, somewhere you'll see some differentiation, there will be some kind of calculus also involved. There is calculus involved, but then even that is helpful, but I'd say that I'll still give more weightage to linear algebra, statistics, and probability. That really helps.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
looks
I
like.
completely agree with what Sanjana and Manika said. And I really like the approach that Sanjana recommended of experimenting and, trying it on your own. Like just not reading just the textbooks, but trying things on your own. It's really important. And, if you think that whatever you're learning in the classroom is not enough, at that point, go and find. There are really good resources on YouTube. Like, I think Three Brown One Eye, one of the good resources for linear algebra. So at that point, don't go looking for a lot of resources for the same topic. Just pick one and, if you like them, follow that and try to learn from that.
To add on to what Aditi was saying, I used a lot of the YouTube channel Three Brown One. I honestly don't remember what it's called, but I know it goes something like that. But a lot of my courses were very math heavy too, and then if I wanted to like kind of simplify and understand the whole picture, I would um, very like I would like look at Andrew Ng on YouTube. He's a Stanford professor. He has a lot of courses on deep learning. I think he kind of like removes most of the math out of it and kind of explains it on a very high level, which sometimes it's easy to understand the whole concept if you feel like the math is kind of really intimidating you. So that's also a very good resource.
Yeah, it's equally important to intuitively understand what the algorithm is trying to do. So having the math understanding and the intuitive understanding is really a requirement.
gonna say is there's actually a question in the chat, and someone would like to know, um, are there any challenges that come with trying to use AI and ML solutions in different fields, like healthcare, and stuff like that, in terms of ethics and policy? I think they mean.
Yeah, I mean, there's always like ethical implications with every field, and I don't even know if I'm qualified in like talking about this. Like have not worked in industry for that long and not like full time working anywhere like that. But um, I think when it comes to like using AI in any field, especially like healthcare, um, there's like the whole like concept of like security and privacy. I think that's like one of the most first things that come to mind is like how secure are we being with patient data. Um, Another thing with like AI again, like I keep sort of repeating myself, but when it comes to like data sets and stuff, it comes to like when you're doing like trials, like healthcare trials, a lot of times, a lot of the patient data, especially in the U.S., is like only of like white males or like it's like the doctors themselves have had biases in the past where like if a black person needed help and they were more of like you needed to be included in the trial, a lot of times human bias would have be reflected in who's included in a study or a trial. And obviously we don't want our algorithms to reflect that same bias, but oftentimes they do. So even if you have a sicker person who is from a minority group, they're not included in the trial because that's what's been done in the past. And also like medicine is different for like different groups of people in our bodies differently, and I don't think it's always representative of all groups of people. Um, and so I think that's like an ethical thing that people don't often talk about. But I think AI is like I said when I first like talked about like computer science, it's like used in every single field. And there's all like I don't want to sound like cynical about AI. It's like very useful, and I think the potential of using artificial intelligence in every field is so vast. And I'm just being generic right now, but um, there's obviously a lot of use cases, and I think the best thing about it is that it's able to adapt and grow so quickly. So I think that's a challenge, but also very, very good about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add on, so I think in most of the problems, in most of the cases, there will be one or the other kind of a imbalance in the data. So you go for any problem, it's very hard to find a data which for every outcome it has, you know, representative samples. So in general, like, let's say we are in the field of autonomous driving, let's say you're trying to train a model that will classify what kind of a traffic sign it is. But then, because the data is collected in such a way that you might not get, let's say, you will have a lot of highway board signs, but maybe very specific signs, you might not have a lot of samples. So there is always this imbalance in the data that the first thing that we have to look at the data and make sure that we get rid of that imbalance. And there are like many different techniques to do that now. um, if you don't have data, you have to, you know, generate simulated data. So these are all the steps that we take to. So one kind of a bias is in the sense that Vidya talked about. The other kind of thing is that, there is imbalance in data, and you can do something to to handle that imbalance. So uh, for sure, I think all of us in our field, we have faced such issues with data imbalance. And it is one of the major things that if you want your model to be generalized, to be realistic, you have to make sure that your data is everything. It's like we always say garbage in, garbage out. So data is everything. So we have to make sure that what we are trying to achieve is properly represented in the data.
Those are really good points, Monica. And one of the when I was working on a project, and I had a course called ML in Production, and at CMU, and most of the courses like talk about the algorithm and all the parameters, how to tune them. But this course kind of delved into the actual implementation and the end-to-end part, because every source like your mobile phone or anything, any electronic device you have, it collects a lot of data from you like every single second. And we have like a major chunk, bulk of data that's in abundance, we all know it. But as everybody here pointed out, how we use it is what is really important. And as Vidya mentioned, in healthcare, I think like privacy, security, is really important because we don't want to be leaking information that we wouldn't want anyone to look at. And I think another interesting thing I came across was there was some kind of I'm not sure which company, I forgot the name, but that was kind of like this engine which generates, you give a prompt and then it generates like pictures out of it. And then they just said president, or they just said, give me a picture of a president, and it just showed up like a white male um, photo, right? And that kind of comes in the um, historical bias. Like there's so much data from over the years that how are you going to filter out and make sure that all of that is balanced and equalized? So all of that also comes into picture, and ironically a lot of companies don't take this into account because all they care about is business. And I don't want to point out, but there are like some companies I know who have just fired the entire privacy and legal team which works with AI, and that's really sad to see, but um, I think it's a very important aspect of AI.
That's actually disturbing that would happen, but that's really interesting. So how so like as a woman in STEM and you're so accomplished, obviously you've been able to study CS and intersections and you both are interns. Have you had any significant challenges that you faced because you're a woman, especially in the field, like kind of dealing with a predominantly male field and just having to be kind of like the small minority in a group? How do you guys deal with that? What challenges have you faced? Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, going back to some of the concerns for AI, I'm working in fintech, financial technology, and at the company I'm with right now, Morgan Stanley, they, of course, it's an investment bank, and they take their user privacy and data security very, very serious. So AI is not something that the banks can as other companies can, because there's so many levels of litigation, risk, and regulation that you need to take into account for before trying to implement something like that. So as much as I can talk about it, like one of the major projects that Morgan Stanley is trying to implement, starting this generative AI, and right now we're working from a very high level perspective. So we're trying to see and analyze the different business cases we can use this in. So my field currently is within the wealth management technology branch of Morgan Stanley. So they essentially cater to very high net worth individuals and provide financial services to them. So we're trying to see if we can either automate or incorporate AI into some of these services. But of course, there is a lot of risk involved, and user security and privacy when it comes to financial data is key, and we don't want to compromise any part of it. So that is one of the challenges of bringing AI into a field like this. And it's actually one of the reasons why I got into fintech in the first place, because bringing technology into a space where there's so much risk involved, you don't want to compromise any area of security or users' privacy. Very interesting area to look into, and fintech and financial services law is a whole other industry that people actually branch out into, and it's a whole new field. Very, I think just that knowledge that this is such a risky area to implement AI is what really intrigues me. So it's interesting to see how these companies, these banks and firms are slowly implementing it, one day at a time, and it's not as quick as other companies, but it does, take a lot of time and thought process and plan. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers the question, but I just wanted to put that out there. And as for the other question, challenges I faced as a woman, STEM, or in my career in particular, I haven't had any insane, crazy incidents. I know some of my friends have shared some of their horror stories, and I do feel pretty bad. But so far, I haven't encountered anything pretty sometimes every now and then I think is an issue where you're trying to speak and then someone's like trying to, overshadow you or speak over you while you're talking or interrupt your thought process, which isn't fair. It doesn't feel very nice. But the one way I just go about it is to gracefully just handle the situation and make sure they acknowledge that, I'm trying to speak and my ideas are important and, I belong in the same space as X, I deserve my place. The one thing that we should really work on overcoming is imposter syndrome. Um, and that's something that I really like to talk, and I could go on a tangent for hours and hours, but really recognizing that you have the potential to be wherever you're at and having that inner self-confidence and knowing you deserve all the opportunities that you receive and deserve so much more is key to over.
I think that was valuable advice, and I really wanted to highlight the what you said about imposter syndrome and not letting people speak over you, because we've all met mansplainers in our lifetime. We've all met people that think that they're more, important than you, that they'll talk over you, but it's up to us to be louder than them. It's up to us to kind of prove that we're just as loud as them. But yeah. Shogun, if you'd like to share your experiences as well, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. So, kind of going off what Akila said, also like working in the fintech and banking industry. So for context, there's only two interns on my team, and both of us are girls. So when I first joined, I was on like a Zoom meeting, and I met them in person last week with just like a bunch of other men who definitely have worked in the industry for far longer years than you have. And then, so when I first joined, I was given a project which I'm only solely working on. So there was a lot of different technologies and different tools which I was not familiar with. So I feel that getting used to that technology and being able to learn everything in time for also you to complete that project in time, that was a little bit of a challenge. But thankfully, my team's really nice since I had a wonderful mentor who walked me through the entire process and really showed me, okay, this is like what DevOps process is. These are this like what Microsoft Azure is. So he really taught me like everything that goes into like what I needed to learn. And apart from that, a lot of your companies, like whatever you work in, there's a lot of different support systems. So for William Blair, we also have a women in technology specific group. So meeting those women who also work in like very different aspects of the bank that are all in tech, that was very supportive with me since I had that mentorship to rely on. And additionally, I think just like working through the challenges is all about being able to take that step. So even if you do feel like intimidated in a call with just people who are a lot more experienced than you, or who seen that they have a lot more knowledge than you, like it doesn't hurt to ask a question if you want to, or receive some clarifications. And there's many times in my project where I'm just like, okay, should I like continue working on this, or should I just like reach out to this person who definitely knows how to work around it? So doing that step, and I think taking that initial step has helped me not only progress my project but also build relationships with a lot of other employees who I may not have worked with if I didn't take that step to reach out.
There's just so many things that you said which were honestly so important. So first of all, like that you mentioned that there's like lots of people to help you, and especially like being a woman in tech is hard. It's not something that people can usually handle alone, and so like I've heard from like many mentors like you guys that really like it's important to find your own community, and that's how you can find your own voice. And also, it was great that you mentioned that there were supportive men in your workforce as well. There's many allies. It's not like the world's against you. It's honestly, it depends person to person. And what advice do you guys have for young women in tech who are aspiring to enter the industry and maybe trying to get to places that you are, and kind of build upon themselves? Yeah, if you guys have any advice, that would be great.
I could start on this. So, one of the advices, like, definitely be strong technically, like, always know your stuff. That's very important because, as we all know, being a woman in tech, you have to be able to stand your ground, having that, you know, knowledge is always going to propel you forward. But apart from that, like Shagun mentioned, find your community, and like finding those mentors, finding those friends is equally important, and having a network that can support you to move forward in your career is very important. So those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, what you said is so important. Really, like, um, actually, like, I'm still kind of like a young girl who's trying to enter into the industry, but like from what I've experienced, that's definitely been really helpful. Like finding my own community and really just finding people that could help me. That's been great for me. But yeah, if anyone else wants to give their input.
Yeah, sure. I think you started talking about this, but mentorship is, I think, also a huge one. Like I think was talking about like your community. I think finding someone that you specifically like look up to, and this can be a peer, a friend, a colleague, anyone that you think has maybe already achieved this network, or they have qualities that you look up to. I think it's really good to be in contact with that person and really communicate and explain just like even as a sounding board, right? If you have all these ideas that you want to do in your life, career goals, having someone to talk to and someone who has had some experiences, I think, is a great thing to do. And just sharing, if you're having a problem and you're trying to work through a decision making process, they're a good person to talk to. I think making sure you find those connections and being that person for someone else as well, I think, is a huge part of it. I I know like a lot of times Shagun and I are like in an organization on campus called Disruption Lab, and um, we have like for recruitment, like we actually have like barely any girls. Like we're at like a college campus, and you'd expect a lot of people to join. Like we're working on emerging tech, like blockchain AI, like VR technology, but the disparity is crazy. And like for being on leadership, like I think one thing that we try to do in terms of like fostering this community is like making an active effort. So we host girls' nights, and we host like different things to make sure that people feel included. So if you want to be the one to take the stand and actually do something about it, then I think that's like the best way to also like foster that community.
Those were some really good points. Something to add to that would be not hesitate to ask questions. This comes from my background, where in school, my parents went to a parent teacher meeting, and then the one thing she said was she's good at everything except she'll know everything, she'll know all the answers, but she's never going to speak up. And I think my journey like started from there, where I was a very shy kid, and then I was really afraid to ask questions or like put my points forth, because I was scared what people are going to think, or if they're going to think it's dumb, or just judge me. um, Everyone's going to judge you. So I think like overcoming that fear of being able to like speak up is something I had to deal with, even through like college and as I entered the workforce, because um, the my workplace has a lot of men. Like it's very male dominant, especially in my team. I think when I joined, it was just me and another girl, and we were the only two women in the whole team. So kind of like, and there are like dominant personalities who don't kind of let you speak, or kind of shove away your ideas to the side, because they think that what they're saying is really important. But knowing like how to put forth your ideas, acknowledging them, but still say what you have to say or ask what you have to ask without being um, scared of what people are going to think about you or judge you. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Actually, I want to touch back with what Aditi said about know your stuff, especially in the world of tech. Because, one thing that I noticed is that kind of as women in tech, you kind of have to know more to kind of prove yourself that you're just as good as the other people in the workforce. And so it's kind of sad, but if you're really technologically advanced, if you almost know everything, then that's going to be really helpful. And not saying that you have to like prove yourself right to everyone, but it's always helpful to kind of feel welcome in a workforce. But that's about all that I have for this question. But does anyone have any more answers, or would you guys like to move on to the next question?
I would just like to add in the end, I would say like one thing is like don't close yourself, because I feel like when people think about tech, it's like one specific field where you're like coding all day for something, for like a project which you don't know might actually or directly impact your industry, especially if you're working in like with like a lot of people, a lot of employees. But one thing I learned is that like once you go into tech, there's a lot of different fields, a lot of different applications. Um, which you can apply your knowledge to. So even if you're not interested, or the idea of just like sitting on a computer all day doesn't excite you, it's not really just that. So keep your passions open and just be able to know that you can still combine technology with that idea. And ultimately, I guess with like, the way of the world is going, like you're gonna have to. So being able to be on top of that and generally getting excited about all the different fields which you can encounter, which you may or may not like right now. Keep your options open, because you don't know what you might not, what you might or might not like as you get more experience.
So powerful, because like all of you guys didn't know that you guys wanted to do tech. I think actually some of you guys were kind of interested in the beginning, but like none of you guys knew that you wanted to go into this field right away. And you kind of grew to love this, whatever you're doing, and you kind of figured it out as you grew older. So I think that's really valuable for people in the audience. I definitely did not really know I wanted to go into the field that I'm going into, asynchronously. But yeah, if you guys still have any questions, please let them know. And please let me know if you have any questions as well. But yeah, I think it's been so nice chatting with you guys today. It's honestly, I'm so like lucky to be able to chat with you guys, because you guys are all honestly like some of the most talented women pioneers I've ever met, and really just given the opportunity to talk to you and ask you these questions and learn so much from you has been really valuable. And I really hope we can stay connected and maybe do great things in the future. And yeah, so thank you guys. That's about it for the panel. But yeah, if anyone has any closing remarks, that would be great.
All the best for everyone with whatever they're trying to do, like in at work and outside of work. And if there are any questions, then please feel free to chat. And it was nice attending this. One of my first, that this is always going to be special for me. And hopefully we'll have more events like this in future, and I get to meet you all again.
Learn about what they're doing. So yeah, that's about it for the panel. I think everyone's free to leave now. So yeah, bye. Until recently, all of you guys.